Welcome to Small Venue Music. Our podcast showcases the amazing local musicians and incredible small music venues right here in Richmond, Virginia. Join us each episode as we talk to musicians, venue owners, and even fans to help everyone get a better understanding of what makes our local music scene so special. Whether you're a musician, a fan of music, or just curious about the local music scene, we think you'll really enjoy the show. In this first episode of Small Venue Music, we're really excited to feature Abrams Bridge. They're an amazing Bruce Springsteen tribute band based right here in Richmond, Virginia. Abrams Bridge has developed quite a fan following and regularly plays some of the best small music venues here in town. The band is made up of Luke Bobbitt on guitar and lead vocals, Eric Bowers on bass guitar, Brendan Yerian on saxophone, Dan Fortuna on keyboards, Tom Best on drums, and Chris Kidd on lead guitar. Joining us for today's podcast will be their lead singer, Luke Bobbitt, and today's show will be hosted by Don Busick. We hope you enjoy the show. All right, welcome. Hey, thanks, Luke, so much for coming to what I think you know is the very first episode of Small Venue Music, and I couldn't be more excited to have you as our first guest. You both are the, the honoree, and hopefully this doesn't become a problem in terms of my ability to do this. But I really appreciate you doing it, and we're really excited to have you on the show. So thanks so much.
Yeah, flattered to be here, excited to be here, honored to be your first guest. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah,
right?
This will be fun. So. Hey, everyone who's going to be watching this will see a promo that's going to explain a lot about Abrams Bridge, the band, and kind of the fact that you guys are a Bruce tribute band. I actually wanted to start off, though, by talking about you first. I think people will be interested in learning a little bit more about how you got into music in the first place. So I'd love anything you'd share, like, hey, how'd you learn to play guitar?
Right.
Like, how'd this whole thing get started for you, if you kind of rewind way back to when you were a kid?
Yeah, sure. So I actually grew up playing sports. I was not a music person. I love to listen to music. That's where my sort of love of probably music and rock and roll comes from, is my mom and dad, of listening to Elton John, Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen, all those guys in the car. But I played sports all the way up till college, and I think when you finish your high school sports career and you realize you're not going to be a draft pick or anything like that, you're sort of left with this void, of finding something else to do. And one of my buddies went out to Arizona, and I know he started kind of messing around playing bass or doing something, and he called me one night and talked about this band that he was kind of friends with, and asked him at one of their breaks in the show, like, hey, what song is anything you feel comfortable playing? Like, and they're doing some big fraternity party or whatever. Yeah. And long story short, he got to do a song with him. I think it was like You Shook Me All Night Long by AC/DC. And he just said, he was like, it's the greatest night of my life. Like, he was like, just a rush you've never felt before, and something like that. And so then, he ended up actually moving back, and, we were at college down at VCU, and, we just used to mess around, I think, and he could play some stuff both on bass and guitar, so that kind of opened up. But, I think it originated from singing through a karaoke machine with him playing a guitar through a bass amp or something, and, I think it just, one thing led to another, trying to play some songs that you loved, and then he got some crazy ideas to try and write something. And so, we went for the whole, let's be an original band, let's write some stuff, let's put some stuff together, let's find some people to, to play the other instruments and sort of that kind of stuff. And that's kind of where it took off from. And so at that,
you didn't grow up playing guitar then?
No, I did not.
So you learned in college?
Yeah, so I learned in college.
Kind of a late start.
Yeah, a little bit of a late start, and but it's I remember it was like you could play E minor and G, like if you could get to
don't need many more, right?
If you could get to a third chord, you could halfway play some songs, and there's probably something like Every Rose Has Its Thorn was probably one of the first ones, and then I remember when I could do a bar chord, I was like, oh my gosh, like the whole catalog opens up for you when you can do that B minor.
So can you remember at least what you would consider the first time you played in front of I'll say a real crowd, and I mean not like a couple of friends in a dorm room, but like in front of people where you felt the nerves.
Oh yeah, I remember. I guess the first like real public one we did might have been in Charlottesville for like a battle of the bands or something, or somebody gave us something. And like I said, we had these handful of songs.
Do you remember where it was?
It was in Charlottesville, and I can't remember the name of the place, which I know stinks. But I remember the area of where it is because I want to say it's like near. I can't remember, which is irrelevant. But it was somewhere, and I just remember. The enjoyment and like the rush of just this organic high that comes from people being like clapping for you, and you're like, the whole time I'm thinking like, do we stink? Do we suck? Like, are we any good? And from that moment on, I was like, oh well, we'll be, we're the next Guns N' Roses. We're the next.
We're the next. My next question. Yeah. So, like, when did you realize that? Sort of being a musician was something you wanted to do?
Probably right then and there.
Yeah.
I mean, I just music, even though I didn't play it growing up, it's been something so important in my life. I'm an emotional person, so the highs are highs and the lows are lows, and music goes in every one of those spots for you, no matter what you need. And so I just think the reward of entertaining people and someone giving you that compliment, it's a
rush, right?
Yeah, it really is, and it never really gets old.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if it's one person complimenting you or like 100 people complimenting you. It's just something that because you really kind of open yourself up when you do music. If it's original and you're writing it, or if you're doing a tribute or something, like you're giving it all you got. And so I think just that constant feeling of getting that, like, somebody appreciated this. It's just a great feeling.
Nice. Cool. All right, let's talk a little bit about Abrams Bridge.
Sure.
So maybe we'll start at the very beginning. Like, how did this come to be? Like, how did you guys meet? Whose idea was it? How did you decide to like get in on the, like, hey, we're going to go on? Were you a big Bruce fan? Like, tell me the origins of it.
Yeah, so definitely big Bruce fan. Grew up loving Bruce Springsteen. Like I said, Dad had greatest hits and that in his truck, and we would listen to it and all that kind of stuff, and just continue to dive deeper and deeper into Bruce's catalog as I got older and went through all the the Nebraska and the deeper tracks and all that stuff. Not just the Born in the USA album. And it just always resonated with me. I always felt like it. He had wrote that song for me in that moment, even though he wrote some of this stuff decades ago.
Yeah.
And so that always resonated with me. And after doing the original stuff with Rocket Knife, which was my original band, we got into playing covers so we could play longer and we could play at other venues. It wasn't just playing original music. And so we would occasionally throw in a Bruce song. Yeah. And whenever I would go out and see people, like, people would, do a cover of Bruce, but I never felt like it captured the spirit of Springsteen. It didn't capture the boss. Musically it sounded fine, but like vocally and like passion wise, it just would always fall flat. And so I would get compliments. People would say, hey, you do that, you do a Springsteen pretty good. It's a pretty good take on that. And it wasn't always like it wasn't like we were just always playing Dancing in the Dark. I might do like a deep track and just throw it in, a set that we're playing, and some guy would be like, I know that song.
Yeah.
You did a really good job with it. And so Richmond's, I started noticing just, there was some other tribute bands popping up. Yep. And there was some other gimmicky kind of stuff going on with some other covers. And it seemed like there was a little bit of a void for it, maybe. And I know anytime I've gone to see Bruce, people are so passionate about him. And really they still are, but like sometimes it's bad, but sometimes, it's good, bad, everywhere. People are very passionate about him one way or the other. But the music, like just the way, again, it just resonates with people, and it just they just latch onto a song, and they're like, that song means everything to me. And I know he used to play up and down the East Coast. I know he played in Richmond. Yep. I know he played at VCU when he was in Steel Mill and some of that stuff. And so I had heard, I just thought there was maybe, what if we, would people pay to come see a tribute band? They'll pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars to see them. Would they pay nothing? Would they pay $5 to come see someone do an honest sort of take on it? And so my buddy Walt and I, he was the one that kind of kept spitballing it too. And he said he thought we should run with it. And he was the one that kind of introduced me to some of these other guys, especially Eric, who plays bass, and just is, our foundation of everything in the band. And then he led to meeting some of the other guys. Todd was our original saxophone player, and he moved away. And then Dan and Tom have been with us from the beginning pretty much as well.
You might as well just add the last name there.
Yeah, and then when Todd left for Amsterdam, obviously you're thinking to yourself, okay, this is one of the most important, if not the most important. And then Brendan, dude,
wow.
All you got to do is just hear him hit a couple of notes on that saxophone, and you're like, ooh, this is a real deal.
Yeah.
This is a real deal. And so Walt ended up leaving the band, but he helped really introduce me to all those guys. And then Chris came in, who is our current lead guitarist, and that's the we've had Greg. I'll give him a shout out because he helps with sound, and he's filled in with drums when Tom has been unavailable. And so that's Abrams Bridge. That's where we came from.
So tell me, because everyone's always curious about how bands form. How long did it take for you guys to get to a state where you felt comfortable actually booking a show? And I ask because I know in a lot of the early days of band formation, there can be everything from it's hard to get a common vision with a group of guys. It can be hard to get, frankly, schedules lined up. You have to get the confidence that we really are good enough. How did it go for Abrams Bridge? Was it like, hey, it just seemed to click, or was it a little bit of a, hey, this took some work to get it to a state where you could really feel comfortable playing out?
Yeah, I think probably a little bit of both. There was some natural, the songs just felt like they hit.
Yeah.
And then there was this little bit of, you realize that Bruce's songs aren't as easy as I think some people think they are.
Yep.
They're not just 4 chords over and over. There's something weird in every one of them. There's a weird, there's 6 instead of 8. There's, a weird change here. And so a little bit of both to answer your question. But I'll be honest with you, it didn't take that long before I think I felt pretty confident in it because, I've been singing Bruce in the car, in the shower, at my house, the whole time. So I kind of think to myself, I was like, I've got to be confident in these songs because I'm singing the boss. I can't go kind of nervous into the microphone with this. You got to sell it. And I think the other guys put a lot of trust in sort of being like, is this going to be worth my time to learn 12, 15 songs this quickly to do something? So I think the first time we played publicly, I had a little acoustic gig, I think at Conch Republic, which is no longer there anymore. It was right there on Rockets Landing. And I had played there before by myself, and I said, would you guys be open to if I did a set with a full band as a little bit of a Springsteen tribute? And they were like, yeah, sure, that sounds cool. And so we played, I think, one set with them and, got a lot of really good feedback back. And I was, we kind of looked at each other and were like, should we keep going?
Yeah.
And so we kept going.
Do you remember the first show? And I'm actually asking because I think I might have been there, but I'm curious if it was the first full show. Do you remember what it was?
It might have been rare. I think there was a benefit walk that we did for Alzheimer's.
Okay.
But I think the first, sort of in a restaurant bar venue, it might have been Rare Old Times.
I thought I saw you guys at Garden Grove.
That was an early one as well. We did play there early. And yeah, I wasn't sure how that would go because it was just a different
kind of space.
It's a different environment. But yeah, that was definitely an early one. Once, we had added probably that, full 3 hours, type stuff. And so it was a lot of stuff.
So you started getting into this, but I'm curious because as a Springsteen tribute band, like Bruce has a loyal fan base, and they're really passionate and knowledgeable about the songs, about like how they're played. They've usually seen him live multiple times. How much pressure do you all feel to, I don't want to use the word mimic, but stay true to the way he performs live?
Yeah, I think that's, I don't know if we're always doing it correctly. I mean, you're talking about, in my opinion, one of the, if not the greatest, like live performers. Whether you think Bruce is, a good singer or you like his songs or not, I don't think anyone can dismiss the effort and the entertainment and the showmanship that he gives to every single song and in every single show. I mean, he's still 73 years old, still playing nearly 3 hours. I've enjoyed seeing him live myself, and so it's like some of it's a little bit natural, I think, of just being excited to be on stage and stuff. And I think there's that fine line of, you're doing it as a tribute and an ode rather than just trying to, hey, every time during this song we got to do this move. And we don't pre-script the moves.
Got it.
Like there's no pre-scripting on what we're doing on stage. Probably sometimes we should because it might look cooler, but most of it is just sort of a natural thing.
One of the things I was curious about, and particularly for you personally, which is because I've seen you guys now probably for actually 5 or 6 times now, and I've been impressed with how many of what I think of as the small nuances of what Bruce does, you embody. And whether that is in commentary in between songs, like subtle, stage moves or like presence. And I was wondering how much of that is just like, hey, it just sort of happens, or if you've like, no, I've studied, I practiced in front of the mirror, and I'm really like, it took a long time to get there, because it just seems to come so naturally. And a lot of people I know who've come to see you guys play are big Bruce fans, and they point it out to me of like, oh, you see when he did that? Like that's like, so is it just sort of you just picked it up from being a fan, or do you actually really kind of study some of the things that he's done and try to embody them?
I think I've watched so much of his live stuff that like I know little things that he does at certain points in live shows that do get a reaction out of the crowd. At the same time, I think when I was trying to, when I was more focused on being like an original musician and stuff, some of that was just, I'm just trying to embody like the greatest frontmen that have ever been there, whether it's Mick Jagger or, even Elton John or Bruce or Guns N' Roses, like any of those guys, like, they're flamboyant, but they know how to work the crowd. Like that's why they're the best of the best. And so some of that stuff is a little bit natural. Some of it is, I am aware that, hey, during this song, sometimes Bruce does this. Yeah. And I think maybe because it means I love it, seeing it as a fan so much, and I know that people do pay attention to that stuff, that probably subconsciously I know I can deliver something that somebody will be like, that was cool. That was kind of like what Bruce does.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've gotten the commentary of like, it's like a young Bruce is here. It's got to make you feel good. I know.
You can't give me a better compliment than that.
Hey, speaking of one of the things I as you know, I came and watched you guys practice, and I always I was curious, and it came up in some of the conversation you were having with the rest of the band, which is Bruce songs are hard to sing.
Yeah, and
they got to be hard on your voice. And I was wondering, like, how much do you have to take care of your voice, and like, how do you? I can't imagine how you can go through 3 hours of that. I mean, I can't imagine how Bruce does it.
All right.
Do you like Like, what do you do?
So I've been asked that a lot, about, because I think some of the songs, like, Born in the USA, they are a hard song to sing. I naturally, as you can hear me, have a little bit of a raspy voice anyways. Yeah. But I am aware of it, in the sense of, I do try to take care of it. I try not, I don't really smoke or anything like that, but I try to drink tea, hot tea, honey, lemons, some of that kind of stuff. And you try to, I try not to drink too much during the shows anymore. I used to, when you're doing original music, everybody, of course, you used to get paid that way, right?
Yeah.
You used to get paid with a pack of beer
Yep.
and whatever tips you made. So you wanted to earn your keep. But I do try to take care of it, and I do try to be conscious of it a little bit, because if I don't, it'll burn out in the middle of a show. And so,
have you had it happen?
We've gotten close.
Yeah,
I've gotten,
you're like stretching.
Yeah, I've gotten to the end before, where I'm definitely been like, where the end is coming. Like, we're not getting 2 encores.
Right,
You're maybe getting 1 encore, and that's it.
That's great. So, hey, one thing I did was I actually went out and talked to some of Abrams Bridge fans.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did. And so are you ready to go into what I'll call the lightning round fan questions that I got submitted?
Yeah, that should be funny.
You should see you got. So I have the first set come from Liza in Church Hill. I will not. First, they want to know, what's your favorite Bruce song to play live and why?
Oh, shoot. Darn.
I know, it's a tough one.
Thunder Road is really cool, because I can hear the audience, like I can hear it as soon as I hit that harmonica with the piano. I can kind of feel the conversations coming down. Like I can't really hear it, but I can feel it.
Yeah.
And so that song just, it's cliche of one of Bruce's best songs, but it really does just take you through the full emotion of his song. And then the ending with Brendan, in our version of the band, obviously playing that saxophone. I mean, sometimes I'm now a fan. Yeah. Again, I'm just sitting there listening to it and playing along. So that's definitely one of my favorites. Probably for those reasons.
How about, what was the hardest song for the band to learn so far?
Ooh. There's been some weird ones that have been a little bit tricky, and some that you would think we would really struggle with, we would get to faster. I mean, Jungle Land's got a lot of, dynamics to it, and a lot of transitions. That one's probably one of the more tougher ones, but that's the really amazing thing that I say about the guys that I play with, is that they're so talented that they, with those kind of songs, like, we'll say, well, let's just run through it one time and see how far we get with it. Yeah. And all of a sudden we go all the way to the end. And I mean, it's not perfect, but you're like, and that's a testament to everyone's personal practice time and the effort that they put into everything.
Very cool. All right, the next set comes from Shelley in Richmond. She wants to know, are there any songs that you have a personal connection to? So something that like spoke to you during a certain life stage. You can tell these are coming from Bruce fans.
Yeah. We're getting deeper and deeper here. Off the top of my head. So I have a couple of songs are from my wedding, and so those would mean a lot to me, that we've done. My sister read "If I Should Fall Behind." We didn't play it, but she read it sort of like a poem, one of the lines in it, and so that obviously has a great deal to me because of my wife and my family. I don't know what it is about Backstreets, but that's like probably low key one of my favorite Bruce songs, and that's probably another one I really, really enjoy playing. Yeah. But it's something about those words and just that story of, I don't know, just your youth and losing things and trying for things, and it can get to you. And it's interesting because like as you get older, all of a sudden some of these songs mean something different to you now.
Yeah.
Darkness on the Edge of Town. It just, something about each line you just get a little bit closer to sometimes, and you're just like, did he write this song for me in this moment right now? Even though that just celebrated 45 years.
Yeah.
So it's something.
All right, here's an easier one now. What was your first Bruce show, and how many have you seen?
I think the first time, where did I see him the first time? I want to say it might have been Charlottesville.
Okay.
I might have seen him in Charlottesville. My favorite show, my wife surprised me with tickets and didn't tell me, and we drove up to Newark, New Jersey. We started heading north, and I didn't know where we were doing. I didn't know what was going on, and she had gotten tickets for us, and ironically, we learned about the lottery for the pit.
Yeah.
Found where we were supposed to go, got signed up, waited around. We were 50 people from the first number they called. So I was pretty much 1.5 rows of seeing him in Newark, New Jersey. And it was, I believe it was the Wrecking Ball tour. And it was just
amazing. Absolutely
amazing. I mean, you could hear him talking to the band about the audibles, which song he wanted to switch to.
Oh, yeah.
Calling things out, calling for the other guitar, talking to the crowd. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
It was so that was good. So I've seen him probably 7, 8, 9, somewhere around that.
There. Can you speak about the name of the band?
Yeah, Abrams Bridge. So in Darkness on the Edge of Town, there's a line that says, "Tell her there's a spot underneath Abrams Bridge. There's a darkness on the edge of town." That's one of my favorite albums, if not my favorite album, probably by him. I'd probably put that and Born to Run next to each other, but I think Darkness probably gets the nod. And Walt actually was the one that was really in favor of that. We debated with some...
Because that's the second part of her question, and she wanted to know what were some of the alternates. And just so I get her full question, because then she went out to ChatGPT, and she had a whole bunch of other things that ChatGPT suggested for Bruce Springsteen that were very funny, which I forgot to bring with me. But, what were some of the alternates?
Badlands was one, because I thought that was kind of, it kind of spoke to it. There was some ones where we were trying to combine songs, like whether it was like, Thunderland or something like that, or, Born in the Promised Land. I think one that almost got it was Luke and the Hungry Hearts. Because it was trying to kind of play off the Bruce, Luke, and then obviously Hungry Heart is a well-known song from The Boss. And so I think those were some of the ones we fiddled around with.
Last question, and it's funny because you sort of started talking about it, but Meredith in Henrico had a question about... the big man Clarence, and she said, "How many sax players did you have to try out before you found someone who could live up to that legacy?" And I think really it's she's sort of throwing a compliment at Brendan.
Yes.
So can you speak a little bit about his playing?
Yeah. No. I'm amazed at how quickly, he's almost note for note. And like I don't know his backstory with how much he knew all of Springsteen's catalog and whatnot, but his playing for me is, like I said, it distracts me from the show because it's so good. And it's just, when you get to Jungle Land or you get to Thunder Road or Born to Run or even Badlands, when it gets to those, if you know Bruce Springsteen, I make a joke sometimes when Brendan's not at practice, like if he's had to miss or something.
Yeah.
I will do the saxophone solo with my mouth because I just know it, because it's part of the song, and I will do that. And obviously it sounds a million times better when he's actually there. But his presence of just, I think he kind of does the same thing. He's not trying to be the big man. Nobody can replace him. But he gives the emotion and the power comes out of that saxophone. And you just hear it when he starts going. And I've always told people, I said, yeah, it's a Bruce Springsteen tribute band. We got keyboards, we got everything, we got saxophone. They're like, oh, you got a saxophone player? And I'm like, yeah, but you got to hear.
Yeah.
It's a real saxophone player.
Yeah, I mean, for folks who are listening, like it's something special. Like
if you close your
really
eyes,
impressed.
Yeah, if you close your eyes, you're gonna feel it.
Yeah,
and especially with Clarence passing and then his nephew kind of taking over. Like I can tell when I listen live on some of the E Street radios or live performances, I can tell when it was Clarence was still alive.
Yeah,
and when Jake is still there, so that's like irreplaceable. But I'm telling you, like when we're at practice and we get to a song and Brendan starts going and you're just like, and we haven't played it before. I mean, you're just like, oh my gosh, like it's perfect.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Great.
Hey, obviously playing in a local band, and it's funny. Sometimes people don't realize that it's not a full-time job for folks, and so obviously you have a day job. How do you balance the demands of like having to make a day job living and all of the work required to pull off the kind of effort you guys have to put into being able to put on that type of 3-hour show?
Yeah, well, I think it's fun for one.
Yeah.
And I enjoy playing with the guys, and we're always tweaking the set list. We're always trying to add a new song in. So I think it always kind of keeps it
fresh,
a little fresh. It makes it make sure we don't get stale. Like we're not just playing the same 32 songs every time in the same order. We mix it around all the time. Maybe sometimes that makes us a little loosier goosier, but I think that's rock and roll a little bit, and I think that makes it so we're not robotic. Like we started a song, there was something going on, somebody couldn't hear something or whatever. I just started the song differently.
Yeah.
The band just picked up on it and we rolled with it. And I think that's what's being a band is about. But yeah, during the day, knowing that I'm gonna go to do some music later that night, or know I got a big gig the weekend, I think it gets you through the work week.
Great. Hey, what aspirations do you have? In a little bit of context, I was talking to Eric after practice that you guys had. Mm-hmm. Eric's the bass player in the band, and we are both equally impressed with how you front the band, and as I mentioned earlier, sort of the persona that you bring to life for Bruce. Do you have bigger ambitions in terms of like where you might want to take it? Either with Abrams Bridge or just as sort of in a national touring Bruce tribute band or anything like that?
Yeah, sure. If somebody wanted to, somebody's listening and wants to,
you never know.
wants to talk numbers, then yeah sure. But in a serious, I mean, I would love to continue to play in front of people and bring this sort of show that Abrams Bridge brings, or if there was something else down the road, I don't know what would happen, but I'm always open to anything, because I think like I was saying, the power of the songs and what it means to people. Like I had a young lady or a mom the other day just say something, and she was like, these songs mean the world to me. And the fact that you took 2 seconds to say like hello or something like that, and I was just like, well, they mean everything to me too. That's the common ground that we have here. Like I didn't write them, I'm not Bruce Springsteen, but I can share that passion and love for you. And I think that's what I'm always just trying to bring to people, is something that they love, because I love it, so it's easy for me.
Well, awesome. Well, hey, that's a good thing to close on. But let me ask you one more question, just to as we're getting to the end, give you a chance to plug, because it's I've come to see you guys play a lot, and I'm a huge fan, and I'd really love for everybody who's watching to come out and see you guys play in some upcoming shows. So could you share with everybody listening some of the upcoming shows and venues that you have coming up?
Yeah. Happy to do that. So we have one coming up at the end of July at James River Winery for their Friday night events, and that's going to be Abrams Bridge, and that's James River Winery. I believe that's July 28th. And then we play at one of our favorite places, Mainline Brewery, on August the 12th. And that's a little matinee show. I know some people sometimes say they can't make the late night gigs, so that's a during the day gig for us. And then we've got some shows coming up at JJ's Grill, which is one of the first places that gave us a gig, and we love playing there with those guys. And then we hit the circuit again with a couple of those same places. And to give a little bit of a tease, we have a really big show that we have not announced that would be in November. And that's going to be a big one, and just a little tease.
I might have to have you back to, we can break the exclusive on small venue music.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, Luke, thanks so much for being willing to do this with me.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I think you guys are a great band. I think you're an incredible front man, and you really bring Bruce to life. And Abrams Bridge and all the guys are just incredible musicians. And I highly encourage everyone listening to go out and see him. And thanks so much for being on the show with me.
Well, thanks for giving us the platform, and this is it's a pleasure and an honor. So appreciate everything.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to today's show. Please like or subscribe to our podcast to be notified of each new episode, and follow us on all of our social media channels. If you are a local Richmond band or venue owner and you'd like to be featured on the show, please feel free to send us an email at smallvenuemusic@gmail.com. We'd love feedback on each episode, so please leave a comment to let us know how we're doing. Thanks again for listening.